All right, welcome to the next episode of Voice AI podcast, where we discuss the future of voice AI. Today, I'm super excited to host Peter Ryan, second time, who is the president and principal analyst at Ryan Strategic Advisory. Welcome, Peter.
Hey, David, thank you for having me back. It's been a while, but I always love reconnecting you and getting the chance to chat a little bit about some of the key trends in the industry.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm excited as well. And as a reminder, Peter is recognized as one of the world's leading experts in CX and BPO. His advisory firm provides market insight and actionable data for organizations in the CX services industry. And with 2 decades of experience, the advisory supports BPOs, technology providers, industry associations, and economic development agencies. Was that spot on? Did I miss anything?
I think I'm going to be hiring you to do my introductions when I speak at conferences, David. That was a perfect presentation.
I would love that because it was ChatGPT telling me, so it will be an easy job for me.
Hey, well, I mean, I'm glad that they've got the accurate info and somebody's been programming it properly.
I'll be just a wrapper on top of ChatGPT. Sounds good. So, Peter, I know that you have done recent research on AI adoption use cases in the CX industry in BPOs, and I've reviewed it. It's pretty interesting. So, I wanted to chat about it and let you present it actually to the extent you're open to do it, to share your findings. Yeah. What's your research telling us? Where are we with AI?
Well, let's start a little bit, David, with a sense about the research that we conducted. I want to give a backgrounder to our friends who are listening and watching today. So every year, Ryan Strategic Advisory undertakes a survey of enterprise CX leaders from around the world. Now, this past year was our largest survey that we've ever done. Nearly 820 enterprise CX leaders from across nearly 20 different industries that were based in 12 countries. Now, the countries were in Western Europe, in Asia Pacific, and North America. So what we did was we partnered with Crisp so that we were able to dive into a little bit about what some of the key elements around artificial intelligence, specifically voice-based artificial intelligence was happening, what their thoughts were, the directions that they as CX leaders of different enterprises that ranged from $10 million in revenues to in excess of 5 billion, what their thoughts were in terms of how things were progressing. David, I think you and I can both agree there's been a lot of hype cycle around AI over the course of the past nearly 3 years, since I would argue since ChatGPT launched. You know, we were hearing about it before that, but really I'd say since November 2022, it's been very hard to cut the reality from what a lot of people would like the reality to be. But I think there's some very good news in the research that we partnered with CRISP around. First thing, I'm just going to speak to some of the more broad findings. What we found was that there's a huge interest amongst enterprise CX leaders to partner with organizations that have capabilities, the know-how, and the technology backbone when it comes to artificial intelligence. That's very important. There's a lot of interest out there in terms of exploring how these solutions can make CX better. And there's no surprise on that. The technology continues to leapfrog day by day, week by week, month by month. And when we dove into what some of the different elements around CRISP and what CRISP was looking to try and investigate, we found that when it came to the voice AI technology mix today, well, at least when the fieldwork was happening, which was over the course of the second part of Q1 2025, there are a significant number of organizations that are availing themselves of AI technology. As a matter of fact, what we found was that of those organizations that are actually doing some element of translation, while there's still a significant portion of organizations that are relying on human translation services, we're also seeing more and more that are looking to try and adopt the complexities and the I would say the convenience of AI translation tools. About half of the respondents said that they're actually doing that right now. And about a quarter of them said that they're actually using accent conversion technology that's powered by AI as well. And I think that, from where we're coming from, this is a big jump in terms of being able not only to facilitate what consumers might be looking for in regards to being able to speak to an agent that can accurately provide a response in their mother tongue, but also that element of almost removing that indecision or that uncertainty when there's an individual who's supporting a consumer on the telephone, but might have some issues around an accent. And we're not saying the accents are bad. Everybody's got an accent. I speak with an accent when I speak in English to you. I speak with an accent when I speak in French. It might not necessarily be as comfortable for the person on the other end of the phone. But now more organizations, I think, are proactively looking to try and engage companies or partners that can bring these technologies to the table. That's a very good step in the right direction.
Peter, like a quick question on those stats. You mentioned that AI translation is like half, I think you said half of the respondents said they
Yeah,
are exploring or maybe adopted AI
yeah.
translation. Do you also include text translation in it for like chat, or this is
Well,
voice translation?
yeah, this was based around voice in terms of what we were looking at in the survey. Now, it's also possible, and I'm glad you bring this point up, David, because look, at the end of the day, one organization's adoption might be much further along than another organization's adopt. And you might have one that's just literally starting to kick the tires and bring a solution, and others are much further down the road. To my mind, what this points to is a growing confidence in this technology and a growing realization that this technology can deliver high value, high performance outcomes, which, let's be perfectly frank, consumers are more discerning than ever. It only takes one bad experience on the telephone with an organization, and it might be a linguistic one for a customer to say, well, forget it. I'm going to ditch this one airline and I'm going to go to another one because I don't feel I've been treated sufficiently. I don't feel I had my issues resolved properly. So what I love is the fact that we've got very reliable, well, much more than reliable, but very sound technologies that are improving on a constant basis that are driving these outcomes. And enterprise leaders are seeing an opportunity to take advantage of this to reinforce the stickiness between them and their consumers in regards to that relationship.
Yeah, yeah, I fully agree. I mean, it the bottom line is that if technology doesn't perform, if it's not reliable, it's going to reflect on the adoption side. But I think in the last 1 year, we have seen big improvements in the accuracy. Accuracy is number one from my
That's it.
perspective, but also in latency, in reliability of these technologies. So we are seeing uptake in adoption. It's slow, but it's happening. And I fully agree with your, I think, conclusion that like there is a shift in the industry happening right now. So more people are more perceptive to this idea.
And if I can just take you up on that point, David, because I think that you raised that point about latency. One of the big issues is I've watched this industry for the last while has been concerns about how much lag time there's going to be between somebody speaking and when they get the response back. Now, at the end of the day, there's always going to be a lag. You and I are talking right now. There's a pause between each interaction from your side to my side. Nobody wants to have a situation where I, as a consumer, I'm speaking to some type of a translation tool, and literally there's no lag whatsoever, where I just have an individual using an AI interface speaking back immediately. It's that whole idea about being as natural as possible. And you raise a very good point. The technologies have improved a lot. It's not just the accuracy, I would say, but it's also the level of comfort that people have in terms of the types of technologies that are being deployed, and almost providing that cushion, that soft landing that people are going to have, where they might know that there's an AI interface that's between them and somebody speaking on the other end of the telephone, but they're a lot more comfortable with how that's playing out. It's more natural. It's a lot less speaking to a robot. It's more like speaking to an individual.
Yeah. Having said that, Peter, like I'm highly convinced that what customers really care about is the issue resolution, whether the issue has been resolved,
Yeah,
rather than the the speaker's voice was robotic or not, right? I mean, that's nice to have. It puts another like extra level of comfort for them, right? But so that's what like I am big sort of like I think that accuracy uh, of the translation is number one priority in the technology stack. It's not there yet, frankly. It still has some room to improve, but it's that's what excites me, right? Like if we have accurate translations, it's going to become a no-brainer, even if there is a bit of lag. Like from our observations, customers are okay with the lag.
they're fine. They're fine
Yeah,
with it. Yeah. I think that, you raise a point that has been an issue of contention depending which side of the fence you sit on for years. I mean, look, I've been in this space as an analyst for over 20 years. There's a school of thought that a consumer will not be happy unless they're able to speak to somebody who has the exact same accent and intonation that they do. I'm with you. I am of the view that it doesn't matter what accent you've got. As I say, everybody has an accent when they speak, but are you able to resolve the consumer's query? If you're able to resolve the query, you could be speaking with a very different accent. What it comes down to is competence. What it comes down to is understanding processes. What it comes down to is having the right tools at the agent's disposal. And if we can augment that, if we can augment proactive agents with the right tools, with the right different elements at the desktops, and they've got I don't even want to say translation, but maybe accent neutralization as well as translation elements that's powered by AI, all the better. But it comes down to, let's get the problem fixed. I'm not phoning a call center to have a chat and to catch up about what's going on in my life or what's going on with the agent's life. I'm calling because I have an issue. Let's resolve it as quickly as I can, and let's resolve it in such a way that I'm not going to need to call back.
exactly. And 100% agree. Like the reason customers prefer phone conversations or voice conversations is there are three reasons, right? There is the request is urgent, it's emotional for me, and it's complex. So when two of these overlap, it's a phone call for sure. So you need competency on the other hand, and you need comprehension and all of that. Great. So let's switch to accent neutralization. You said like I think you said quarter of the respondents said that they've been like looking or exploring or already adopting technology.
Yeah.
That's also a pretty big jump, right? Do you see like a change in the perception in the industry regarding this technology?
Well, I think that the members of the industry, enterprise CX leaders are always looking for a way to try and make their service that much better. And the reality is that, going back to your allusion earlier about how technology is improving and continues to improve, we're seeing this with accent neutralization. We're seeing this with accent conversion technology. And this is, I think, something that has gone from being almost like an out there concept to being very real world. We're seeing a lot more of these solutions being brought forward. We're seeing a lot more of these solutions providing that level of touch point that's going to help a customer feel that much more connected with a brand or connected with an agent that's supporting. And let's be perfectly frank as well, Divi. This technology helps the agent. It's going to make the agent feel a bit more comfortable. There's not going to be potentially that level of disconnect with the consumer. The consumer might not necessarily be as hostile. That resolves into an agent that's going to stick around longer. Now, when we have an agent that's going to stick around longer in the role, they get better at it. They're able to serve consumers better. It's better for the organization to deploy this type of technology if it's going to help them stick around more, because it's going to cost them less in terms of managing attrition. I mean, the cost of going out, finding a new agent, onboarding them, training them, keeping them, and finding a way of just maintaining their interest is a huge amount of money. So it's better to keep people in that role, keep them happy so that they aren't going to want to attrit. So this is part of a broader ecosystem, almost like a series of dominoes. One falls into the other to make it happen.
Yeah, I absolutely couldn't agree more. Like when you talk to agents, actually frontline agents, like it's so obvious like how exciting they are with technologies like this because the amount of cognitive load and stress on them
Yeah.
uh, during these calls where the customers but when a customer says like can you I didn't understand, can you say it again please, and they say it again like two three times, it's just very stressful for these folks, right? And if there is a button that can solve it for them, it's a no-brainer. Like we just showed this our accent conversion technology to a group of agents actually just last week. We have demoed the version and they were mind blown, like, and we were mind blown how they were mind blown, right? Like unless you see that, you don't fully sort of appreciate what you have created. So yeah, we are very excited about this particular technology.
Well, I think with every reason to be. And one of the things I love about what you're doing, what Crisp is doing, is the fact that you're being proactive and you're looking at it from a big picture perspective. You know, that example you used about somebody who might be telephoning a contact center saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. I didn't understand you." Well, imagine you're the agent of the other end of the line. Maybe if you're supporting somebody in English, it's not your mother tongue, you're going to start feeling more self conscious. You're going to be losing your confidence. That's going to not just impact that call, but think about the next one you pick up and the one after that. There's definitely something to this technology that is, I think, a win-win for both the consumer who's going to be able to understand the agent the first time and the agent that's not going to have that level of uncertainty or hostility or even the shot to their own mojo that they might be getting if somebody is getting on the other end of the phone and not understanding them with the best will in the world. I always like to use the example. Imagine I'm living in Texas and I telephone for support and I get somebody in the city center of Glasgow. Now, they're both speaking the exact same language, probably perfectly. But at the same time, for a Texan to understand a Glaswegian and vice versa could be very challenging. And that's just a reality. If you've got something that's able to neutralize an accent to the point where everyone's going to be able to understand each other the first time out, this is really a good thing in terms of enhancing brand loyalty and enhancing a brand to be seen as a mark of quality.
Yes. Yeah, so we are very bullish on this. So basically, Peter, is is my understanding correct that like the first wave of this agent assisting AI technologies was noise cancellation? I mean, at least from the
Yeah.
voice AI side, right? Then accent conversion or neutralization came in, started getting traction, and now it's the voice translation is coming and starting
Yeah.
getting traction. Like, where do you see this going in the next year? Like, you have looked at it last year, you have looked at it this year. What's your like? What's your expectation for the next year? Is this going to go mainstream in the CX industry, or you still think like, okay, maybe not that fast?
I think it's on the way to becoming mainstream if it's not mainstream already. There's a couple of things to take into consideration. We talked a little bit about it at the outset of our conversation. One of the things that we're picking up on right now is a lot of enterprise CX leaders, and quite frankly, outsourcing leaders too, are really having trouble managing the hype cycle. What's real? What's not real? Uh, Now we've got a sense that I think a lot of the fluff and a lot of the out there type concepts are perhaps being moved to the background, and there's a lot more real world concrete examples like some of the ones we've talked about today, David. The more case studies, the more use cases that can be put in front of a buyer of this technology, the better, because they can identify what's working, what maybe is going to work, maybe not now, but in 6, 12, 18 months, and then they can make a decision strategically. So I definitely think that we're going to be seeing a lot more interest. There's going to be a lot more interest from a whole series of different sectors in taking on these technologies. But it's not going, you know, the old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, but we're seeing infinitely more of a foundational base for investment in these technologies in the second half of 2025 and going into 2026. And I think we did even 6 to 12 months ago.
Okay,
But
sounds
I just want to say one thing as well, that this is a message I've been trying to say to many of my friends and many of my clients in the technology space. Look, the reality is that it's very hard right now. We're dealing with very challenging, uncertain economic, political, even business continuity circumstances. What used to be an easy investment decision, 2, 3 years ago, has become very challenging, just given all the macro level issues that we face on a daily basis. The most important thing that a technologist or a technology company can do is present real world, pragmatic use cases to a buyer, whether it's on the outsourcing side or the enterprise side. Here's where our technology sits. Here are the use cases. Here are the areas where we're confident that it can work for you because it's worked for other clients. And here's where we see the technology evolving. Partner, get in at a base level, and as the enterprise rides that wave and grows and becomes more technology pragmatic and more technology adoption wise, the technology company can do the same with it.
So basically, under promise, over deliver, be grounded, make sure that you know you're not seen as part of the hype because there's so much hype in the AI, right? And I
Yeah.
was looking at some of the stats that pretty large percent, I think it was 40% or more of leaders or decisions around AI are going to be reverted back because uh, they basically didn't meet the expectations. I
Yeah.
think more like for the voice AI agents. So like AI.
Yeah. And you're touching on something. I think that I don't know if I would say under promise and over deliver. I would say promise pragmatically and promise realistically and do your best to over deliver. Um, I would also suggest that what you just mentioned about the number of organizations that are shifting back against AI. I think that'll change because it has to. This technology is an accelerator, and I like to look. I think we're sort of the same vintage. You'll get the where I'm going with this, but I I like to use the example, and it's a loose example, but AI today in customer experience is what Pentium processors were in computing in the mid to late 1990s. Do you remember prior to Pentium processors, you had a situation where it could take 3, 4 minutes to load a program on a desktop or a laptop, and then it took 3 seconds. I mean, everything just accelerated. And this is what we're talking about, the processes in CX, the business processes that are being accelerated and accentuated with this technology are huge, but it's got to be managed and it's got to be presented in such a way that people are going to understand it and that they're not going to be overwhelmed with the hype.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, Peter. I think like let's let's. I mean, I think it's a great positive point about AI. So let's finish at that. Thanks so much, Peter, for coming today. These are great insights, and we are gonna share the summary of your findings in the final article as well. So hopefully,
Fantastic.
will appreciate this. Thanks so much, Peter.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be back.